archery tournament.
Yes.
Like the weekend for several years. I feel like
I think it was 4 years. I ran it for 4 years. Yeah.
And you had a lasting impression on me because you of all the sort of tournaments and like traditional longbow get-togethers and whatnot, you did a great job of having different types of skills related to archery that were being challenged. It wasn't just this sort of monolithic, like, stand there in a vacuum,
right, yeah.
And, take your time and whatnot, which is probably the purest form of accuracy, but you had rounds where, like, we're going to do speed rounds.
Yeah.
We're going to do different distances. Yeah. I remember one time you had one in the sort of championship rounds where people were, like, on a plank, yes. And you were balancing when you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I just loved the creativity, and I wonder, was that all, were you able to improvise and determine what the kind of the rule set was going to be? And I don't know, talk about the Renaissance Festival archery stuff that you did.
Basically, the Renaissance Festival, that happened because I had started making archery equipment, and I wanted to get a booth there. And so when I went to apply for that, they approached me about doing the Renaissance or the archery competition there during the, I think it was like the Harvest Festival one that they were doing sometime in September. I remember that. I think it was like the third or fourth weekend. Mm-hmm. So I said, sure, why not? I had never run a competition before in my life. I was just an amateur archer shooting at a hay bale out and back. Mm-hmm. So I did that, and the first time I did it, I had a little help from this one guy who had run competitions, and he showed me how to set up different, shoot from here, then shoot from here, and then you
Mm-hmm.
get your long shot. And as I went on, I thought, well, this is not really competitive. And I wanted something more complicated. And I saw this YouTube video of these guys doing like parkour and shooting arrows and stuff like that. And I thought, wow, what if I could introduce some of this stuff, not necessarily doing flips and
Mm-hmm.
then shooting, but what if you were balancing on like a log, or what if you were like shooting from a, like a kneeling position,
right.
Or, like maybe doing like 3 steps running up and then turning and shooting or something like that. So I started to like incorporate that different type of stuff into the competition. And everybody seemed to really like it, especially the Hail Mary shot at the end where it's like 80 yards.
Yeah.
And then everybody is, taking a shot. And I don't know, was it you that nailed it?
Probably not. I haven't historically done super great at those. Part of it is there's some Michigan has some fantastic archers, people that have been hunting their whole life, people that are retired and can practice every day. So the competition has always been very stiff. I always did like pretty decent, but I've come a long way since then as well.
Yeah.
But regardless, so I guess starting at the beginning, I wonder, like, where was the first time you got introduced to archery? Like, as a kid, like, did you see it? Yeah, but the first time you saw someone shoot a bow and arrow, and then, like, what was that moment like?
The first time I ever got introduced to archery was actually a bow that was in my great-grandmother's house that belonged to my great-grandfather's father, who was full-blooded Cherokee.
Oh.
Okay, so the bow was homemade. He made it himself, and one of my uncles, we were getting something for my grandmother out of this back room, and I turned around, and the bow was actually hung on the back of the door, and it was a very, very dark bow, and my eyes lit up as soon as I saw it. My uncle said, "Oh, you like that, huh?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "That's a bow, right?" And he goes, "Yeah."
How old were you?
I was like 7 or 8.
Okay.
8 years old, maybe.
Perfect timing.
And he says, "Yeah." He says, "Nobody can string that bow." And I went, "Yeah." I said, "Are you kidding?" He said, "No." He says, "That bow, nobody here in this house or anybody who's ever tried to string that bow can string that bow. Only your great-great-grandfather was able to string that bow." and he was
like a war bow.
Yeah, war bow or hunting or something like that. But he was the only one that was able to string it. So I asked my dad for a bow. So he gets me like a little kid's bow to start. And then we gradually went up. He got me and my brother both bear recurves.
Ooh, nice.
When we were like 13, 14 years old. And he started taking us hunting. We would go bow hunting. And that's really how I got introduced to it, was just, going bow hunting and stuff like that and shooting. We would shoot. We started out shooting in his backyard with like hay bales.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, well, of course, we both missed the hay bales and they ended up in this lady's house and she was really ticked off. So then we moved the hay bales into the garage and started shooting in the garage.
Yeah.
So I did that for a while. Then I got older, of course, and that's not cool. I'm not going to do that anymore, So I got away from it and got older, had kids, got married, took the kids all to this camp. And they had all kinds of activities. It was like canoeing and hiking and all this other stuff. And they had archery. And I thought, oh, wow, this would be really great, to go show them, what we used to do, me and my brother.
How old are you at this point?
Oh, I was like maybe 35, 40 years old.
So you're shooting until like your 20s and then like...
Well, I was shooting until like I was 17, 18, right around then. And then it's like, I ain't got time for this anymore,
So like 15 years, you sort of came back to it.
So we shot, and they actually had a deer target. It was an actual 3D target, and they were pulling it.
Nice.
And people were shooting at it.
Yeah, I like that.
And I actually was able to hit it 3 times.
Okay.
And the guy came up to me and says,
because you're used to hunting.
Yeah.
Were you shooting like rabbits and stuff?
We would go like
squirrels
and squirrels we would use like rifles for the squirrels and stuff. For the bow hunting, it was deer. We would go deer hunting with the bow. But then I thought, man, that would be great to get back into again and now introduce it to my children. Mm-hmm. And so I looked up how much a bear recurve was, and it was like almost $500 for a bear recurve. Yeah. And I was like, well, maybe I can make it, because me and my dad and my brother, we made these, little short kids' bows, basically out of twigs, and we made them, and we would, that's how we
like
really
got
started.
Spruce limb or something?
Yeah, just, pop and, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then that's when he got us our regular kids' bows. And so I thought to myself, well, I could probably make something like this. That's when I started watching YouTube videos on how to, make a bow and how you do it, how you set it all. And I mean, I just, as many as I could take in. And then I got my first hickory stave, started working it and everything.
Nice.
And I just started making my own bows and arrows. And then it went from there into the leather work. I started making quivers. Nice. And that's how I got to where I'm at right now, doing it at the Renaissance Festival, selling the stuff at the Renaissance Festival.
So I wonder, did you have, in the time, especially when you were younger, when you were really doing it the most, were there other things from pop culture or literature or history that would get you enthusiastic and make you think about different ways of shooting?
Well, definitely Robin Hood. I mean, when I was a kid...
Like Errol Flynn?
Yeah, definitely. The Errol Flynn movies and just the whole swashbuckling and being a hero and all this stuff. And that, of course, the Westerns with the Native Americans, using the bows and hunting buffalo with these little bows and stuff like this. And just stories about that. And it was basically, I started getting into the history of it, too. It was just like, it's like one of the oldest weapons out there. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a stick and a string and another stick that you're shooting at something. Mm-hmm. You can't get much more simple than that. Mm-hmm. So it was like that, and then as I got older, I started getting into the mythology of the whole thing. Like Apollo was an archer.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all these different deities that were archers. There's Artemis or Diana, the goddess of the hunt, and it was just something that I really enjoy doing. When I shoot, it's like it's just me and the target and the bow and the arrow, and it becomes almost like a meditation, where you're just out there shooting and just trying to better yourself. Like today, when I was shooting out in the back, it was like I couldn't believe how much I had gotten off, just because I hadn't shot in such a long time. That's, like you were talking about, shoulder, that's one of the things, especially, my right shoulder, that's really starting to give me problems. And then I've got arthritis in my hands now. That's just getting older sucks.
Well,
basically.
I mean, honestly, it reminds me, I'm currently training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
And some of the older students were having a conversation with the coach about how no matter how much of a killer you are when you're in your prime, father time always defeats you in the end.
Absolutely,
and
that is the truth.
And people, I think people often underestimate the impact that it has to have something that like you're really passionate about, like archery or martial arts or whatever, and then losing the ability to do it as you get older. I never found out if it was a direct correlation, but I always suspected. To give you a little backstory with me, I started shooting when I was a kid, and then when I was a teenager, my dad commissioned one of our neighbors who was very much into traditional archery. He made bows too.
Oh, wow.
So he made me a bow, and it's awesome, like definitely Native American inspired longbow. It had like a rattlesnake skin grip, and really cool like lightning, sort of black and red and yellow paint job. It's awesome. But
Wow.
he this man named Dave Lincoln, and he was really awesome. He showed me the ropes and was a great like mentor in my early archery stuff. Even though a lot of what he encouraged me to do, just do it, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
There's no. He had the same approach as some of your competitions was. It's not what is in a book or a movie. It can be any one of those things, but it really is like you can do whatever you want.
Right.
If you want to move around and do flips, and certainly that style of archery that's more mobile, that goes more into the roots of what it was actually designed to be. The hunters that invented it, they were moving around.
Yep.
Obviously, if you get in the drop on someone, then a little bit of stationary action is good too. But yeah, so I self-taught a lot after that, just doing stuff that honestly gave me some bad habits when it came to consistency.
Right.
But overall, I feel like I'm really versatile. Like I can move around and shoot and do it from different positions, and that's again, and speed. I think is just something that like I can't believe we don't put more of an emphasis on
Right.
that, because it's like every time I go, not that there's anything wrong with it. If people like to, it is more meditative to just,
Just to shoot, right. Yeah.
But the way that it was, especially in a war situation, you were under duress when you were
Right.
shooting,
Oh, yeah,
and
exactly.
your ability to defend yourself was like, how long does it take you to knock an arrow?
Yeah.
Something that like even people that are amazing archers, I don't think they know how to get an arrow on there very quickly, which to me seems like an oversight. But I guess that's only proves the theory that like people can take whatever they want out of it and find something fulfilling. But in any case, to get back to Dave Lincoln, he ended up taking his own life, and
that's terrible.
yeah, and it was very devastating to me because he was just he had a good impact on me and getting me started in archery, but it's not getting too much of the details of it. Like sometimes when that happens, it makes you wonder, like, well, what were they going through mentally that made them get to that point?
Right.
And I do know, as he got older, and I'd go and visit him sometime when I was in college. He couldn't shoot the way he could. Like, I don't know if it was arthritis, but he definitely had like some joint problems and shoulder stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, for some people, that's the thing that like really puts a spring in their step that day. Not to mention just like, growing pains. Obviously, that's something that everyone experiences. Right. But anyway, did you ever like get into? I know with the Renaissance Festival, one of the things I appreciated is that you I feel like you had a sense of theatrics about you put on the accent and get into character. I know that's something they encourage at that festival in general, but I wonder if you could. Do you have a theater background at all? Or
I had when I was in high school, we did a couple of different plays. I sang in the choir when I was in school, when I was in elementary school. I always enjoyed doing theater. Like I said, we did a few different plays when we were in high school, but I did that because it was fun. It was just immense fun. They asked me to do it. I got a break on my booth. It was like $200. I got $100 taken off of it to do the competition, and so I just wanted to make it as much fun for everybody as possible. So I thought, well, it's Ren Fair, so put on the stupid fake thing, and it's like the horn I had like a duck call in it, and so when you blew it to bring everybody back, everybody got a really good laugh out of that because it just sounded horrible.
Yeah.
And that was funny.
Yeah.
So it was basically just for a good laugh and just to have fun and to enjoy archery.
Mm-hmm.
I know there were a lot of different people. I know at one competition we had a young lady that was actually an Olympic archer. And she had the sights and the weights and all that stuff, and the bow would actually tip down.
Mm-hmm.
And so she wanted to shoot with that.
I think I was there that year.
Yeah, she wanted to shoot with that whole set. I said, nobody else here shoots like that.
Mm-hmm.
I said, that would be like an unfair advantage to you.
Mm-hmm.
And really, she agreed to it right away. It was her father that got really upset with me. Saying she should be able to let her use that.
I'm glad that you were firm about that, because it is meant to be a very traditional,
exactly.
no attachments and whatnot.
No training wheels.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all traditional, and that's why, and that's really what interested me first. Even the arrow shell. At first, I did use bows that had arrow shells, but then I went the way they did it off the knuckle, especially the guys that like the English longbowmen that during the French wars with the French, they were all shooting off the knuckle, and that I found fascinating because they were muscled, and it literally changed the shape of their bones, and it was mandatory for them to practice every single Sunday. They had to practice every single Sunday.
And that's not just the people in the military. That was just like everyday citizens.
Everyday citizens were, because they could be called up during the wars. And it was the longbowmen that won those wars.
Right.
They were like the artillery back in the day. It was just freaking amazing.
Yeah, I think that's part of, I was thinking when I was driving over here, part of what's great about whether it's like LARPing or reenacting or getting into character in a historical sense, I think is such a, like, it just enhances the experience and pays homage to the age and history and the lineage of it. And also thinking about, I love trying to get more into the context of like, this is how they spoke, this is how they dressed, this is actually the more primitive materials that they would use, and just appreciate that there was a time in history when, before guns, and even a little bit until guns developed like more rapid action, that it was like the weapon of mass destruction of its time. And it proved that if you had a mastery of archery forces, then you could run the board. Genghis Khan proved that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's there's so much skill and cultural variance and style.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's pretty wild.
I wonder, in terms of like process. I know, like, I personally, like I said, I developed some habits that like I had to unlearn later to get more consistency. I wonder if you remember either certain techniques or maybe a game changer type detail that you picked up that really helped your archery at some point, or if you were just like instinctive from the bat and kind of had a knack for it.
Well, it definitely wasn't off the bat. There was a lot of practice, and I paid attention to how I shot after shot, and what different changes could I make to make it more like practicing out there today. Like I said, the land spirits ate 3 of my arrows already this morning. But I noticed, okay, so I'm dropping it, I'm dropping, okay, so now I got to pull it up. So it's like a whole process of going back together again to get your tight, spot, that you're getting it all in the same spot.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it was always a process of doing that. It was the same thing, like you were saying, like to notch, notch your arrows. I got it to the point I didn't even have to look anymore.
Nice.
I was able to do it and then just release.
Nice.
And I started to get more like, instead of, I was trying to become more instinctual, notch it and pull it and shoot.
Right.
Just one smooth motion, and let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to a point where it wasn't too bad. I would have 1 or 2 that might be off, but then I would have a nice little grouping, as long as it was within the one spot. I wouldn't always get it in the center, but at least it would be within the target.
Well, I think that's just like, outside of like, during the time, if you were in a Native American tribe and that was your way of life,
oh yeah,
or like you said with the English citizens, that's like you got to be out there shooting all the time. I know it's possible to have, and not just an instinctive, but like not even necessarily like that's how I started and why the consistency thing came up. Where there's a certain point, it's like, okay, am I trying to be the most accurate?
Right.
Or do I want to be, relatively precise with my groupings, but I can shoot in any number of situations? And arguably, how many times, you would like to think that I would just have the perfect setup to, depending on whether you're hunting or defending yourself or whatever in a real life situation.
Right.
The practicality of it, that was something that Dave Lincoln was really into. He loved like the Native American style of shooting, and you weren't holding at anchor. You weren't always at the same anchor.
Right.
You could half draw.
Right.
You'd be. Yeah. He really promote the thing that he always did was lean over, and I remember thinking it was so weird because he would really like halfway over. He was all the way down, and I remember being like, "Why do you do that?" And he's like, "Well, if you're just standing in the open, then you're a sitting duck.
Right.
But if you can lean, then you can be behind a tree or a building or something, and you can just peek out. There's less for you to get hit." And that just kind of speaks for itself.
That makes sense. Yeah, that does, because I know I got it to the point when I had that short little bow. It was like a snap. It was just like right from here, and it was meant for like smaller game, like squirrels or whatever. And it was like you see it and you let it go.
You don't have time to.
Yeah. To I didn't take it back to wherever. It was just a quick shot like that.
That's dynamic though. I guess it depends on what the situation calls for, but a lot of people, I don't know. It's a very rare that I meet anyone really that. For one, it's rare to be an archer. It's even rarer to be a traditional archer. And then it's almost like I only know like a handful of people that on the internet really that get out of just standing and shooting, and kind of trying different techniques and styles and obstacles in your way, making it harder for you.
Right. Yeah.
The kind of stuff that you gravitated towards when you started.
Yeah.
Did you read any books, or like were there archer figures, like maybe actual archers, like Byron Ferguson or
Fred Bear definitely
okay.
was one. Mad Anthony Churchill, who was a guy.
Oh, you told me about
World War II. Yeah, World War II.
Tell this story.
This is amazing. Mad Anthony Churchill, I'm pretty sure that's his name. He goes into World War II with a yew longbow and a broadsword. He killed with the longbow, he killed with the broadsword, he captured an entire regiment of German soldiers with a longbow and a broadsword. Okay, so this guy was crazy as hell, but such a badass. You don't see anything like that. You know.
Did he survive the war?
Yes, he survived and went on to. He had archery competitions. He was like a lord or something like that, and he would have archery competitions out in on his property.
Is he British?
He was British. Yeah.
Wow. I can really buy that.
Oh, he was amazing.
Yeah, obviously Britain has a rich history with archery.
Yes.
And that goes back to like the putting on the character and the accent. It's like, yeah, this is what it was like.
It was exactly like what it was like. It was they had different competitions too, and there are some of the ones I never got around to doing, which was the circle on the pole at like about 50 or 60 yards, whereas it was a circle tied to this pole, and can you put the arrow through the circle? It's a circle about that big.
Okay.
So you're putting your arrows right.
Oh,
through
like
there.
It's like a hoop.
It's like a hoop that hanging. It's like tied onto this pole right there, and then you're trying to get through that.
That's a long way.
The hoop so size. That was that one, and then the one that I came up with was the pool noodle guy sitting on the hay bales way in the back in the 80-yard, Hail Mary shot that everybody would do.
That one was awesome.
I remember this one guy. There was this older gentleman there. He won almost every single competition. The only one he didn't win was the Hail Mary shot because that one kid nailed it.
I saw that.
And it just blew everybody's mind.
And he not only, the crazy thing about that is he had almost no archery experience.
Exactly.
And he was using pretty much a child's bow. It wasn't. It was just like a goofy bow that he just picked up, and he just had like an eagle eye. Because it wasn't just like that shot. He was actually, the whole competition, he did pretty well.
He was doing really good. And I was really glad that he won that year. Mm-hmm. Because the other guy, the older, and he was an amazing bowman. Yeah. I don't remember his name.
I know.
But he was a nice guy, really nice guy. But he won like 2 out of the four competitions that I had. He won twice. Mm-hmm. And then the one young man won the last one, and then I forget who won the first one.
Yeah.
The first one that we had.
Did you? Were you a fan of Lord of the Rings?
Absolutely.
So,
you know it.
I was gonna say like
Legolas. Oh yeah. No, he's like one of my heroes. I read that when I was a teenager, and I really got into it. And then when the movies came out, I saw every single one at the theater. And that's why I do the Renaissance fairs, because it brings a sense of that. It brings it to life, kind of, and you can take part in that because, let's be honest. If we were all suddenly thrust back into the Middle Ages,
it'd be bad.
It would be real bad. It would be horrible. I mean, that's, truthfully, it would be horrible. But this is a way where you can get away for a weekend and you can, make believe, pretend, have a bunch of fun, get your craziness out or whatever, and then back to real life.
I mean, it says a lot about what our society values or maybe just propagates that obviously it's not this way all over the place, and there's plenty of people in the rural areas that are very self-reliant and have a variety of skills, but it's is really not it's something I finally oddly that people are fine with it, that like technology has become such a replacement for the natural world, and because we have things that eliminate the need to know how to do ancient things,
Yes.
or quote unquote primitive things. But it doesn't take much to lose some electricity after a few days, and it's like, okay, what do we know how to do?
Yeah,
and there's some people that can do that and they would thrive.
Yeah.
But most Americans, it's not something that is, I don't know, promoted by the culture.
Right.
It's too bad, because I feel like back in the day, probably when you were a kid, there was a greater percentage of probably kids in the Boy Scouts and just...
Yeah, I was in the Boy Scouts.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things. I didn't go all the way through. I think I quit like when I was right around 10 or 11 years old. But we went out on campouts and stuff like that. But my father used to take us fishing and hunting, and we would go camping. We did tent camping. I still enjoy tent camping. Believe it or not, it's a blast. Me and my partner Lucinda, we go camping.
Mm-hmm.
And we do a lot of hiking. But I know what you're talking about. I also, see those brooms over there?
Mm-hmm.
I made those brooms.
Nice.
And that's just, it's just learning these different things. I'm an artist more than I'm anything else. I enjoy making things with my hands. Mm-hmm. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So learning how to make brooms, we both worked at Greenfield Village, and every year they would have like a farmer's market.
Let's bring one of those out.
You want to see?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
I'm also, I do a lot of drawing, so.
Yeah, I do too. That's originally how I started, was just doing a lot of drawings. But this is
nice.
But it's just.
Yeah, it starts out finding a really nice stick.
Yeah.
And what do we have here?
That's broom corn. That is broom corn, and these are the stalks.
Here.
And then what you do is this is broom corn too. This is the actual straw part. And then you just, you attach the straw part, and then you lay the broom corn down over it, and then you kind of weave it.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah.
And that has character.
Yeah, I mean, it's a broom.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's an old-fashioned broom. It's something my granny, would have used,
mm-hmm.
or something like that. Also, I learned, because I did study some Native American stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I learned how to make structures.
You made this quiver?
I made that quiver.
Right there. Can you grab that? I want
to. Sure. I made the quiver and the arrows.
Oh yeah. I need to learn the ways of making my own arrows. So this is just awesome. Got a cool little pouch in the front.
Yeah, this is for now I don't have to use these, but that's like a wrist guard.
Oh, yeah.
And because I shoot off, yeah.
Ooh, look at that feather work. That's so cool. What kind of feathers is that?
Those are peacock, actually. And that's a Ace Classic point. They replicate, they're kind of replicate a medieval bodkin type point. And then this is medieval. All of this, it's got self-nocks, where you cut the nocks into the wood. This one is like a Native American arrow.
Ooh. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started building a bow, and I got into the tailoring phase, and I just...
Oh, yeah.
a bunch of things came up, but once my kids get a little bit older, it's going to be kind of more of a real bow, but I'm looking forward to getting back on that, because it's all figured out and whatnot, but I know that's the hard part, is starting to thin it down and pull it.
And seeing where, tailoring is that's a whole lot. You have to be, it's really precise and to get it just right. And I've had so many bows, you get it to a specific point and it's so close.
And it breaks.
Yeah. And you're like, oh man, it just...
Well, what do you think if you were pitching the archery as a preoccupation. It's like the new generation, people coming up, you know, whether they have an interest or not. What did archery do for you, and what do you find valuable about it?
Archery teaches focus. It teaches concentration. It teaches you how to be patient. There's so many different things. Like in archery is a metaphor too for like your way forward in life, because a lot of people feel like they're going backwards sometimes before something actually great happens. And to me, that's like the Great Spirit with you. You're the arrow, and the Great Spirit's got you on the bow. And before he releases you and sends you into whatever future and good stuff he has for you, he has to draw you back before he releases you. So sometimes you're going to feel like you're going backwards. But that's just the mystery, the Great Spirit pulling you back before he releases you.
Wow.
Or she releases you.
Yeah, that's a great way. I've definitely had times in my life where, not when I was in the moment, but in retrospect, it was like, yeah, times where you're kind of in a slump. Yeah. But then it's what follows that is acceleration. Yep. That you're even farther than you would have been if you were just going the same speed, same direction without, just doing the same old thing. Right. But yeah, you got thrown off your horse. Seems like you're not moving, but when you get moving, you catch up and go farther. Yeah. Yep. That's super cool. So in addition to running these competitions and doing it for your own sort of fulfillment, it seems like you've had some experience passing on the tradition and teaching. Yeah. Do you have any principles that I don't know? What's your kind of philosophy when it comes to teaching archery?
Well, when it comes to teaching archery is to be patient with yourself, because it is a skill that's developed. I figure even if you've got a great talent for it to begin with, I think that it's something that you have that you can improve upon. And that's the thing, I think, is not to get frustrated when you're first getting into it, is to allow yourself the time to learn and to just experience it, to be in the moment, like you were saying, and just worrying about something like that. I know when I was trying to teach my daughters, like I have 4 daughters, and trying to teach them archery. 2 of them did pretty good, but to them it was always, well, Dad's doing it, and Dad wants me to get into it. But I made my granddaughter a bow. I made my one daughter a bow. So trying to teach them, I think me as a teacher, I have to understand too that not everybody is going to be as into this as I am, and to let them, learn at their own pace. But things that I've learned from it, like I said, are like focus and concentration, learning how to change things up when something might not be working, to be, I guess, teachable, and to be able to make those adjustments to, do better, to get a better grouping or whatever of arrows.
What would be your argument? Because I feel like we're aligned in that. Either I really don't want to impose a sense of being anti-compound archery, because right. I feel like it's definitely a different category entirely. Right. Yeah. But it is technically in the bubble of archery, and so I don't want to be a hater, but because I think they don't have as much of a problem with numbers. I feel like most archers nowadays use compound. Yes. What's your argument to people if they're going to try it out? Why should they do traditional instead of compound, in your opinion?
I think compound... I actually think traditional archery would make you a better shooter when you go into compound, because there's so much that you have to adjust, you know, and it's all you. You're not reaching like this point where it just breaks and it's simple. Everything is you. You're the one that's doing all the drawing. You're the one that's holding or releasing whenever you're doing all that. And I think it will make you a much better hunter if that's what you're trying to learn. And when you use a compound bow, or if you're just shooting, just target shooting, it's going to make you, I think, a much better archer. Learning the traditional aspects first before you move on to, you know, the compound. Mm-hmm. I never really did care for the compound. I mean, you can get like a 90-pound bow, and it's like but as soon as you reach that one spot, then it goes. I made war bows before. The strongest one I ever made was a 75-pound pull bow, and it was you. And it was a special order for this guy. And I wasn't able to do a full draw on it.
Yeah, I probably couldn't either.
I got it to about right here, and that was as far as I could
I have
get
a 60, and that one, I can do it, but it fights me.
Oh, yeah. But this guy, when he came to pick it up, I had set the spot up in the back for him to shoot with, and he was able to do, but he did the whole thing where it was like, forget exactly. It was up and then down like that.
Yeah,
so it comes up, and then release.
Some bone alignment stuff that goes on.
That has to happen through the whole is like, shoot. And he was putting the arrows straight through. There was nothing stopping.
He probably had those big shaft arrows too.
I did. I made him 1/2-inch shafts with the war.
So they were like anti-knight arrows.
Oh yeah, straight through armor.
That's awesome.
And that's what he wanted.
Just in case.
Yeah, just in case, absolutely. In case of
the armored.
Right. You never can tell when you're going to slip through a portal and suddenly you're back there. But he shot compound though too. But he wanted the challenge of being able to use a bow like that. Mm-hmm. And he asked me if I could do like one of the. There was a specific ship that went down. I can't remember the name of the ship, but they found a bunch of these U-bows on there. There were like 120-pound pull. It was freaking amazing how the strength that these bows had. But he wanted the challenge of learning how to actually shoot that bow, and to be actually be able to do it. So, you know, the more the power to him. The bow that I shoot now is a 35-pound pull bow. That's what I shoot. That's easier on my joints. I can do it better. Before, it was like 45 to 50 pounds is what I shot before. Yeah. And I can't do that anymore.
Well, I mean, I think that's something that people overlook sometimes is, I mean, especially starting out, there was nothing, the kind of thing that compound shooters like have all kind of like algebra and stuff for.
Right.
I was using different kinds of arrows, different lengths. Some were wooden, some were carbon, some had a point on them, some didn't.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, frankly, it was, it's just something that I feel like people can get maybe stuck in. Oh, I have to shoot this much, or if I'm doing less than that, it's. I mean, the reality is that if your arrow is tuned to the bow, if you have a smaller arrow for a smaller bow, it's going to be, it might not be equally damaging, but it'll get the job done. It's going to be zippy. Like, you just need the right kind of point on it. And if you're just going for the joy of hitting a target, which is all I do.
And that's same here,
Like, you're not trying to prove anything right now.
No,
it's
exactly.
Like, I want to do archery.
I just want to go shoot. That's my whole thing. And I've always been like that. It's just, it's not because I want to prove anything to myself or anybody else. I just want to shoot.
Yeah,
that's it.
And going back, same for me. It's all about fun.
Yeah.
And like, like the short bow that I have now, and I'm getting the hang of it. Everything about it's different. The thumb draw and whatnot. I got a thumb ring. but that one's only 30 pounds. But because it's a different kind of bow, it can stretch really far. So instead of being at sort of a mustache anchor point, it's like kind of behind cheekbone, and it can even go underneath the earlobe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little bow, and it's not that high poundage technically, but it'll send those arrows flying.
Yeah.
And it has some. There's advantages that I guess that's at the end of the day, whether it's compound or short bow or recurve or longbow or whatever poundage it is. For one, every bow, I think you would agree, has its own personality.
Oh, absolutely.
And then every kind of bow can be applied different ways. Like, what are you trying to do?
Yeah.
And if it's just trying to have fun, like, I would much rather have a lighter bow. And it's funny that I'm saying this because I was kind of more like, no, I need to be 50 pounds, 55 pounds at least.
Yeah.
And it's there's a lot more you can do when you're not just punishing yourself needlessly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Although, like, if you are hunting and you're going to do it at that poundage, that's you got to practice how you want to perform. So I get that too.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I wonder, are there any? Do you think there's anything that I didn't touch on that like kind of falls in the sphere of archery and your experiences?
Well, I recall when I first started doing this, it was like when I first started like making this stuff. I was making it for myself, and then it was like people at work. I would because I wanted to show this stuff off, so I would bring it in. Look at what I made, you know. So, and then I had people start to ask me to make it. What I found fascinating is that at that point, all of a sudden, you get all of these different archery movies coming out, like Hunger Games, Katniss Everdeen. You've got Hawkeye from Avengers. All of a sudden, you have all these different archery movies that are coming out,
and video games and TV shows.
Absolutely. And I think that I think people should. You can learn from the past. I think we all need to like look back and remember where we came from. I mean, like now we're basically it's all about technology and stuff like that. And I think, like you were saying, people miss a lot because they don't have the same skill set that older people had back in the day. Like, and I think it's good to look back and to remember some of this stuff. And that's why archery, I think, is so important because, like I said, it's one of the oldest weapons. You know, it's a stick and a string. You know, and you're shooting stuff with it. So you can learn from that. You can see where we came from to where we're at, and it's good to hold on to some of that skill that you develop using this. It's hand-eye coordination. It's focus. It's all these different things all working together to meet a specific goal that you're trying to reach. Mm-hmm. So and I think that instead of sitting, and I'm saying there's nothing wrong with video games once in a while, mm-hmm. but I think you need to get out and experience the world around you, and that's another great thing about archery, mm-hmm. is because you're out in the natural world, and you become much closer to the natural world when you're out there shooting. Mm-hmm. You know, because the wind, how is the wind, if the wind's blowing a specific way, how is that going to affect your shoot and everything?
Yeah.
Like that. So, yeah, it's just different things you can learn from just doing it.
Yeah, I that makes me think, like, yeah, on top of the skill, just the feeling of it.
Yes. And
the therapy of being outside, breathing fresh air, smelling in Michigan, smelling the autumn leaves, and especially if you're, I mean, I also really like shooting with friends, but a lot of times it's a solitary thing, and you can really collect your thoughts, and just like if you're having a shitty day, go out in the woods and shoot, and like a way that you can foster, like you said, with meditation, it's a sort of a spiritual tool, really. It makes you feel, Well, I mean, obviously, if you're missing all the time, losing arrows, that'll get your goat. But even that, you learn a lot about life and how you deal with accepting loss.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
especially if you're making. I can
Right,
imagine
you're
if I made
making-
my
oh,
own
yeah.
arrow and I lose it,
Yeah.
and you're just like, you know it's there and you can't see it, and you're just
Right.
like, talk to me.
Yeah,
Like,
where are you? You know, that's another thing. Like the next set that I make, because I've only got 4 arrows.
You're gonna have a
left.
homing device on it.
Yeah, something like that. I think I'm gonna, like paint them bright fluorescent orange or something like that, so that they stand out more.
Well, yeah, if they have the broadhead on them, you might just need a metal detector. Someone
Yeah,
mentioned
right,
that. I'm
yeah.
like, I need a metal detector.
Yeah, you can find that. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. To me, it's the whole aspect of it. It's the creating it. It's shooting it. It's everything about it. It's just wonderful. That's why I love archery. I don't know. It's just something that, like I said, from a little kid and seeing my great-great-grandfather's bow on the back of the door.
That's so badass, too.
It was like, wow, and that's what really got me started. So it kind of got passed down the line like that. But the bow, I don't even know what happened to that. That still irks me to this day. I don't know who has that bow.
Yeah, that's too bad.
And I would love to have that bow. Wow.
Yeah, some of them just, like, have a legendary aura about them. It's like a sacred blade or something.
Yeah,
that
bow was just like, holy smoke. And it stuck to me this long. My uncle taking me in there, like we're going through the closet and we go to leave and it's on the back of the door. I'm like, what is that? That is amazing.
Well, if nothing else, I feel like the fact that you shook off the rust after a few years and starting to shoot again, I think that's awesome. So, and I appreciate your enthusiasm and the thoughtfulness that you put into those Renaissance Festival competitions. They probably, I'm glad they gave you a discount on your table, but I feel like they weren't what they do now. I don't know if you've been there since then.
I haven't been in a while.
I'm not gonna diss on it too much, because at least they're facilitating an event where people can shoot together, which is awesome, or what. But it's not, the fun factor is way down here. You're just shooting one distance, just basic rounds, nothing really interesting. And the problem with it is that what your style of organizing things, it promoted the idea of both, you couldn't rely on just being this kind of shooter.
Yeah.
It's like, and that there's not just one way of being good. It's like, can you do different things, and can you do it fast? So, it really highlighted the people that, like, okay, yeah, you're a great shot, but you started losing points when it came to, you weren't so accurate when you had to do it fast. So,
right, yeah.
And likewise, it's like, okay, you're really fast, but you're not nailing that bullseye as often as you should. So it's cool to be, it's really inclusive, if anything else, because there's not just one way to approach anything, let alone archery. So it's cool to see the kaleidoscope of that.
Yeah, it was a blast. I enjoyed the 4 years that I did it. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Met a lot of people. Like, I never would have met you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, maybe both continue our archerying for fun as long as possible. Thanks for spending some time.
Sure, absolutely.
All right.
Great. This was very
Or
good.
maybe I can leave in the cafe. Do you have any kind of like business thing if people want to like get your leather work, or
they can but the name of I haven't set up a website yet. But if they just contact me at rainsrocky4@gmail.com, then I like, if you want a set of arrows, I can make you some arrows. I don't do the bows anymore, but I do the arrows, and then I do a lot of the leather work. I do quivers and bags. Like this is a bag right here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
That's just a little belt pouch.
Yeah, and this quiver is beautiful. I'll have to save up my shekels and get me one of these. Cool. Well, thanks
Yeah.
again, Rocky.
Absolutely.
And yeah, hopefully, just keep on doing this thing.
Sounds good to me. All right.